Things have changed so much since you started working in finance. If you were getting started now, what would you do differently, or what advice do you
Well,
have?
I think the opportunities are extraordinary, and in particular, maybe for women. When I started in 1986, it was much more, and I started in New York, working at a Wall Street firm, and the original movie Wall Street was it was stretched a bit for the benefit of the movies, but it wasn't all that stretched relative to the kind of old boys network and boiler room kind of stuff. I was very fortunate to be at a firm that believed in diversity and promoting women. But I think opportunities in general are extraordinary right now, and also for women. I think there's been an interesting shift too within sort of this category of big Wall Street firms away from just day-to-day trading and stock picking to wealth management and financial planning. And in that space, the world of wealth managers and registered investment advisors, independent asset management firms, not to mention the wealth management divisions within many of the larger organizations, I think there's such a huge opportunity there because in the case of the individual, managers, the RAA space, registered investment advisors, it's really a first generation business. And one of the things we're working with the advisors on our platform is around succession planning. And anytime you have an industry that is a first generation industry that's been around now for a while, the opportunities associated with that planning for the next generation, I think, provides great opportunities. And I continue to think that Wall Street gets painted with a negative brush too often. And that's one of the conversations I often have with young people who are considering entering into this business. Is I think it's a great business, and it does get painted with I think an erroneous brush or too broadly. And I think, by the way, it's also fun. And the thing I like most about what I do specifically, but I talk to a lot of people in this industry that agree with me, is there's almost no monotony. Every single day you wake up and there's something new, in my case, to write about, to talk about, to think about. And I find that exciting.
What is the biggest risk you've taken in your career?
So it was really shifting from I guess it was my first 15 years in the business, and I've been doing this for 38 years. I was a portfolio manager. I was a bottom-up stock picker. I didn't enjoy that at all. I particularly didn't enjoy the period from the mid to late 90s when at the time I worked for a single mandate, aggressive large cap growth firm. And I didn't like being pigeonholed in that kind of mandate. I was always more fascinated by top down macro analysis, figuring out the big picture and sentiment trends and monetary policy and its impact on the economy and markets. So when I joined Schwab via its acquisition of US Trust and was offered the opportunity to take on this role, which had not existed before at Schwab, they gave me a lot of rope and a lot of freedom to sort of create the role in the vision of Schwab and what makes us unique relative to a lot of the traditional Wall Street firms, because we have individual investors, and I think that audience is very different from institutional investors, and it's why we don't do short-term market timing and year-end price targets. But taking on that role and not having somebody in the role before to emulate, I think was probably the biggest risk. But I've been thrilled at the ride so far.